For me, it is about the law and people.
That is not a legal defense, let me tell you.
And how people can resolve and better themselves.
Justice with passion.
I knew I was going to go into law because I always defended everybody. I was always the one who found a solution and tried to resolve the problem by having people talk to each other.
Justice with truth.
So I'm giving you one more chance to tell me the truth.
This is Justice for All with Judge Cristina Perez. Helena Perry is suing Professor Jared Davis in the amount of $10,000. Ms. Perry claims Professor Jared Davis never posted her grade, and as a result, she lost her scholarship. Professor Davis feels he was giving the plaintiff a break by not posting the grade.
All rise. Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Cristina Perez presiding. Please be seated. All parties have been sworn in, Your Honor.
Thank you, Renard. Okay, Ms. Perry, I understand you are suing your former chemistry professor.
Yes, that's
for
correct.
$10,000.
Yes.
Why?
I'm suing him because he did not post my grade online, which resulted in the loss of my scholarship. And I need my scholarship in order to continue my education.
Okay, so why don't you tell me a little bit about your scholarship and what grade you're in and college? Give me some details so I can understand.
I'm a sophomore in college. I need my scholarship in order to graduate. My scholarship is a full ride. I'm an engineering major. I had to take Professor Davis's chemistry course in order to complete that major. It's a common course.
Okay. Ms. Perry, then explain to me the scholarship. What kind of scholarship did you have at school, and why was it at jeopardy because of Professor Davis?
It was an academic scholarship that I received in high school. I needed to maintain a 3.0 GPA, and it was in jeopardy because he did not post my final grade. I had a 2.9 GPA.
Okay, and so you didn't have a grade for chemistry, was that you taught her?
Yes.
And he did not post the grade for that semester? Or
No, he did not post the final grade.
Okay, and did you try to speak to Mr. Davis?
Yes, I set up one meeting with him at the beginning of the semester, and we briefly spoke about a test that I did fail. He did let me know that I did fail the test, and he showed it to me. I tried to ask him what can I improve on and what can I work on, and if there's any extra credit that I can do, and he was very dismissive and rude.
Okay, and how was he dismissive and rude to you?
He basically told me that engineering, the major is not for little girls, and that I should just drop the class.
So what did you mean by that, Professor Davis?
Well, I think the term I used was separate the men from the boys.
Okay.
Ms. Perry is right. She came in, she discussed her grade with me. The first test that she took was a failing grade. I tried to explain that to her and suggested maybe she start looking at an alternative major in school. That I didn't think that this, for a long term, was going to work out.
Why?
Well, traditionally, women don't seem to fare well in sciences.
Okay, under whose statistics? Under
I'm
whose
just
opinion?
basing that on my experience.
Okay. Did you know that she was an engineering major?
No, I didn't. All I knew was that she was taking...
What were your grades like in the other classes? Were you taking any other type of sciences?
Yes, I was taking biology as well as calculus, and I was doing fairly well.
So did you take the time to figure out why she did poorly on your test? Did you explain it to her as most professors would?
Your Honor, I have over 100 people in my lecture hall.
Okay.
And Ms. Perry came in. I explained to her I didn't have time to sit down and coddle her, to walk her through.
Well, I don't think you were coddling her. It was just an explanation that you would expect. I mean, Professor, your job is very simple. You teach, you enjoy your teaching, you grade tests, you answer questions, and you try to help students. That's the whole reason why we have professors. So they teach students, right? So did you try to explain to her what she did wrong?
No, I didn't.
So you didn't have time?
I don't have time.
Okay, do you have a TA, a teaching assistant that could maybe have helped her?
And I suggested that perhaps Ms. Perry go and speak to one of those people.
Okay, and did you speak to a teaching assistant?
Yes, I went to speak to a teaching assistant, and he suggested that I join peer study groups, and I did in order to, you know, improve whatever it is.
And did you start improving?
Yes, I did. Okay. So I don't understand why my grade could have still been an F.
Coming up on Justice for All.
Why aren't you doing your job?
I believe I was doing my job, and that is focusing on those students that have the ability to succeed.
Closed captioning provided by. You're watching Justice for All with Judge Cristina Perez. Justice for All is back with the case of Helena Perry, who is suing Professor Jared Davis for $10,000.
How many other tests or assignments did you have thereafter?
I don't remember how many tests and quizzes I had. I just know that he wasn't willing to show me my grades after I tried to come in and ask him for additional help.
So how long was your class? What, at least how many weeks? A
2.5 months.
Okay, and is that normal practice for you not to tell students how they do on assignments?
Your
or
Honor,
tests?
typically if somebody is not doing well in my class, we don't publish those. We try to spare them the embarrassment in front
Well,
of
it's
their
not of
fellow
embarrassment.
students.
Nobody else is going to know, but they're going to know in the registrar. It has no, if an F is an F, an A is an A, that's it. It's life.
Well,
so is it customary for you not to give other students their grades?
We will,
failing or otherwise?
We will withhold some of the failing grades,
Who's
yes.
we?
Me and my assistants.
Why?
Just to spare their feelings.
I mean, no, but these feelings don't matter in college. Why do you not post grades or explain to an A student versus an F student why he or she is not doing well?
Your Honor, I believed Miss Perry had dropped out of the class. I didn't even know she was still
Did you go
there.
to class every day?
Yes, I did.
Were you there every day?
I was there every day.
Were you present?
Yes, I was present.
Did you raise your hands and ask questions?
Yes, I did.
Did you submit all your assignments?
Yes, I did.
So how could she have dropped out of class?
I don't grade
And
on-
usually in registrar, don't you get a note saying so-and-so dropped out of your class? I'm not trying to be hard on you. You know, for me, I cannot stand incompetence. That to me is the ultimate insult to any profession. If you don't do your job, just admit it, I don't do my job. Again, Professor Davis, your job is to teach, to grade tests, to post results. Isn't that your job, sir? Yes.
It is my job.
Yes, that's what you get paid for.
And Your Honor...
That's what I pay for. That's what she pays for. That's what the university pays for. Why aren't you doing your job?
I believe I was doing my job. And that is focusing on those students that have the ability to succeed. And in my opinion, Miss Perry did not.
Coming up on Justice for All.
Women don't do well in my classes, and it's not because of me. It's because they're wired differently. They don't have the ability to think scientifically.
Closed captioning provided by. You're watching Justice for All with Judge Cristina Perez. Justice for All is back with the case of Helena Perry, who is suing Professor Jared Davis for $10,000.
How do you know? You didn't even give her a chance. How did she do in the class? And it was the first test. I remember not doing well in a class.
She wasn't doing well.
Okay, well, how was she supposed to know if you never told her?
Well, we did meet, and I did explain that.
You met her once. You said once, and after that, you believe she dropped out of the class. So, isn't it foreseeable? So, for how long did you not post the grade?
I don't believe her grade was ever posted.
Why?
She wasn't doing well. And as far as I was concerned, she wasn't there.
Okay. Were you teaching the class?
I lecture in the class.
So you were present?
I was present.
Did you take roll call to make sure every student was there? I mean, it's been a while since I've been in college, but I think I remember my professor, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But and usually a professor would get a letter, as I said before, if a student dropped out of a class. You would get once in a while periodic reports from the registrar saying, hey, this is what's going on with your class.
One of the TAs may have reviewed that. I don't. I've been tenured there for 30 years. I don't have time to go over attendance reports.
Just because you're tenured doesn't mean you stop doing the job.
I don't go over attendance reports.
But it doesn't mean you stop doing the job. Do you lecture? Do you just lecture and not listen? Because that's not doing your job.
Your Honor,
so
I
then
lecture...
Anyway, continue, Ms. Perry. What else happened after that?
So, again, I tried to set up an additional meeting with him, and he refused. So I went...
Oh, really? So how many times did you try to set up an additional meeting with him?
Twice.
Do you remember that?
No.
You don't?
No.
Okay. Go ahead.
And he basically refused. So my counselor advised me to go to the admissions office to see what I could do.
So administration knew you were having a problem with Professor Davis?
Yes. So
what did they do about that?
I spoke to admin and they told me to go to the head of the chemistry department. Professor Davis is the head of the chemistry department.
Did you speak to the head of the chemistry department?
I am the head of the chemistry department.
I'm asking you if you spoke to the head of the chemistry department. What happens when the head of the chemistry department gets complaints about the chemistry department?
I listen.
Oh, really? So did you just not hear this complaint?
No.
Or did you just throw it away like a piece of garbage? I'm just trying to understand what happens in your head, because I'm not quite sure I understand what's going on.
I deal with a lot of students every year. I've passed a lot through. Some people, a lot of women don't do well in my classes, and it's not because of me. It's because they're wired differently. They don't have the ability to think scientifically. And I base that on 30 years of practice, of looking at the way people's minds work, and I just believe that Ms. Perry, quite frankly, didn't have it.
Really? How do you know?
Just based on her grades.
So no women graduate from your class? No women graduate from your class?
Well, not this past semester, no.
No, not this semester. The year before?
I could probably count on one hand.
Has the chemistry department ever been, have you ever had any complaints from any other female students?
There may have been some in the past that were looked at and
completely dismissed?
Dismissed.
Did you file a report with the administration?
No, they just told me to speak to the head of the chemistry department, and he is the head. And I went to his office, and he refused to open the door to speak to me.
Coming up.
How are you doing this semester?
I'm not in school at the moment.
Why not?
Because I don't have a scholarship, and I cannot afford to go.
Closed captioning provided by... You're watching Justice for All with Judge Cristina Perez. Justice for All is back with the case of Helena Perry, who is suing Professor Jared Davis for $10,000.
The problem that I'm having here is that you are hired to do a job and you're not doing your job. So I'm trying to understand how you are still employed.
Well, I feel I am doing my job, and again, I graduate...
No, you're not doing a job. You're not doing your job, because here you have a student who's complaining, saying that you won't even open a door and you didn't even post a grade.
I have a student...
Whether it was a B- or an F or an A+, your job is to teach, grade, post grades, answer questions. Is that correct?
I have a responsibility to those students...
Is that your job? Yes or no?
That's part of my job.
Okay, and who pays your salary?
The state pays my salary.
The state, and how does the state get the money? People will pay to go to that university, so technically she's paying your salary. I'm paying your salary. Bernard's paying your salary. So you're not doing your job.
No, I believe I am, and again, there's several thousand...
So then, Ms. Perry, so then what else happened? So he didn't post your grade. Did you lose your scholarship?
Well, I was given a grace period by the school. They allowed me to, you know, have a time to boost my grade. So I did that, and unfortunately, I wasn't able to boost my grade back up to a 3.0 GPA and lost my scholarship.
Okay. And how are you doing this semester?
I'm not in school at the moment.
Why not?
Because I don't have a scholarship and I cannot afford to go.
Basically, your lawsuit, you're saying that he intentionally caused this emotional distress in your life, and there's certain elements that we have to meet. So I need to prove what kind of damages you suffered, right? If you suffered, you lost your scholarship. But would you have lost your scholarship regardless of him posting the grade?
No, if he had posted my grade earlier in the semester, I could have been able to take another chemistry course with a different professor for next semester.
They would have let you do that?
Yes.
Did you know that?
Your Honor, that's why I suggested that she take another major, and at that point
Well, we're not talking about it. I mean, that's nonsense. Your personal opinion obviously is worth absolutely
Your Honor,
nothing.
I'd like to submit this...
Absolutely nothing. What is that?
This is the test.
That she failed? The first
yes.
test? Okay, well, we know that she failed it, so I really don't know you. But how is that going to help me? How will that help me? The problem here, Ms. Perry, is that Professor Davis is under the employment of the university, and it's really the university that would have done something, and they should have done something. And I suggest you go back and you complain some more, because I'm certainly going to, because this is ridiculous. It's just unfathomable to think that a professor who's supposed to be a professional and the intent is to teach is not doing their job. And I think you need to go file a report, because this is more than professional negligence. It's more of an issue of discrimination against women. And you're going to have to go back and reopen that door and make them do something and make them uncomfortable, because clearly they're not doing that.
Judge Perez's verdict when Justice for All returns. Promotional consideration provided by...
Now, you are suing him for $10,000 for intentional infliction of emotional distress. And, you know, the elements that we have to look at, was this so extreme and outrageous that it would be beyond common decency? Was it just rude? Was it just, you know, obnoxious? You know, and unfortunately, in college, you're going to deal, and in law school or in any other type of graduate school, you're going to deal with professors that are rude and are obnoxious and are worthless and are not nice. So that's something you're going to have to do, and the problem is that you lost your scholarship anyway. But let me tell you something, Professor Davis. At one point or the other, somebody's got to do something about this, because this is becoming an epidemic. I just read an article that in Florida State University, the same thing is going on. Professors are not posting their jobs. They're not posting their grades. You're not doing your job. And that is not right. And at one point, if the school's not going to do something, somebody's got to do something.
Your Honor, everybody is not
Somebody has to do
suited.
something. Fine, you were beyond rude, you're beyond arrogant, you're beyond sexist, but you know what I cannot tolerate is professional incompetence. That is something I cannot tolerate, because not only are you hurting the profession of good professors, you are hurting students who deserve to know if they failed or if they didn't fail, and that to me is unacceptable, completely unacceptable. You are not only killing their dreams, you by yourself, by your old perverted mind, are telling a young girl, you cannot make it. You are the person, you will never be an engineer, you will never succeed in chemistry.
Only in this
and
field.
let me tell you, Mr. Davis, that does not work. It will not work in this courtroom, and it will not work in life, because this person someday might end up being your boss, or guess what? Might end up being your daughter's boss someday. And how are you going to feel about that? So you need to figure out how you're going to change your attitude, because it just does not work. And I will encourage you to go and speak to your university. I will support you. And what you did, it is completely unacceptable. It's beyond being intentional. It's beyond being rude and obnoxious. What you're doing has to be stopped at one point or the other. So what I will do, while I will deny your claim for intentional infliction of emotional distress, I will award some kind of punitive damage. So you will have to pay her $1,000. $1,000, and you figure out 1,000 times what I did wrong. 1,000 times I'm obnoxious, I'm rude, I'm demeaning, I am crushing students' dreams, and I'm not doing my job. And maybe I should not be a professor. You should not be in a position of authority where you have influence over somebody's dreams at all. You should be ashamed of yourself, Professor Davis. Good luck.
Judge Perez has ruled in favor of the plaintiff. The defendant is ordered to pay $1,000.
I'm going to take the judge's advice and continue to fight, because justice needs to be served.
I'm sure you're a nice gal, Miss Perry. You just picked the wrong major.
This has been a production of Entertainment Studios.